Bam. We're alive, guys.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Jordan Hoover here with Michigan Outdoors Report. And with me tonight is Bill and Dennis and Ray. And we're just going to have a campfire BS session tonight. That's what's on tap. It is almost the opener of firearm deer season. We got November 13th. It's right around the corner on Friday. It is a fantastic time of year. People wait all year long for what's about to happen on Friday. And we just want to share some stories with you guys and talk about things that we've done and experienced over the years and the excitement of firearm deer season. Bill, what do you got going on for the opener on Friday?
So, actually, Friday for the opener, I'll be here in Bay County. And I have a guy who used to work with me, who happened to move down to Indiana. He's coming up, and he's never shot a deer. So we're gonna get out there and see, well, sit with him, shoot a little bit of video, and hopefully we can get him his first deer.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's nothing quite as exciting as getting a first time hunter out in the woods and enjoying their enthusiasm. Hey,
The problem, Jordan, is I think I'm more excited than him. I've got snacks ready. I've got hand warmers ready. I've got extra binoculars. We're ready.
you got
And
two of everything.
I talked to him, and it's a 4-hour drive, and he's excited. But I think I'm up here though.
Right? Yeah, that's good stuff. And good on you for putting yourself out there and donating your time and your effort trying to bring more people into this way of life that we so love. That's important. And hats off to you for doing that. How about you, Ray? What's on tap for firearm opener on Friday?
Well, I wasn't going to take the day off, but after all the movement I've been seeing on my way to work and all these big bucks and does and everything running around, I was like, my buddy Chad's like, come on, man. And I got a friend, Julian, coming back over from Grand Rapids. Unfortunately, he cannot hunt the private land that we do hunt. I do have a spot for private for gun season. We always save it for gun, kind of our last ditch effort kind of thing. So I went to work and I was like, okay, I seen 2 big bucks on the way here and a bunch of things. I need the day off. So I took the day off. So we're going to go right here in Clinton County. We got 2 sections of, it's a south property and a north property and an east and west road. I'm not going to name the road, but I hunt the north. He hunts the south. We usually do really well. It was a cornfield. They got it chopped up. They did not till it in, and they were all over it the last 2 nights. So I'm taking my muzzle loader. He'll take his muzzle loader. I'll have a shotgun with me too in the tree. But that's our game plan. We're just going to go out there and sit and let pressure do its thing, or they come out and feed and whack them, hopefully.
Awesome. That sounds like it'll be a fine opener. Some excitement sure to happen for you guys.
Yep.
Dennis, what is your plan for Friday, my friend?
Well, Friday, couple things actually. I'm going to be out in Hillsdale County, hunting a tiny little town called Frontier, and I'll be basically in a hedgerow, kind of over watching a big, huge cut bean field. And as soon as the sun goes down that day, I'm going to watch that Tyson fight and watch him eat Jake Paul's lunch with both his ears. But once I'm hunting Hillsdale for like 2 days, I'm going to stop by home real quick, and then I'm going to shoot up to Rose City. I'll be up there for like 5 days or so. And then on the way back, I was going to get a hold of Mr. Bill right there and stop in and check out his new place and maybe get in a hunt in with him if he's got some time. And then finish out the rest of November down here in Wayne County.
Now you got like the deer slaying tour 2024 lined up, don't you?
Yeah, it's a poor man's vacation. If I was rich, I'd be going from state to state.
I don't know. One of the things about the state of Michigan is I think we could all agree that in some way, shape, or form, there's things we'd like to see done better for deer management. But you know, something that really hits home with me when I look at other states is we are so blessed with the amount of public access that we have in the state of Michigan. There are so many states that are so chopped up and so heavily privatized, or everything is leased and the prices are absolutely out of the working man's budget. We do have something to be thankful for with all the public access land that we have in Michigan. That's a huge bonus, especially, you know, for people that are just getting started hunting, just getting their feet wet. How great is it that they can literally jump on, you know, Google Maps or whatever, or DNR website and find public ground that they can just walk out and hunt. I think that's awesome. So my plan on Friday, for those who don't know, I've been married 16 years and my wife hunts, and we have 4 sons, and they all hunt too. So it is going to be an absolute glorious fiasco on Friday morning. Everybody's going to be rubbing sleep out of their eyes at 0400 when dad's banging pot lids and flipping flapjacks. And it is going to be a heck of a day from start to finish. The kids probably won't sweep a wink. I don't know if I will either. Yeah, I'm the same way. When I'm in the guide mode, you know, it's the excitement of watching their excitement. I just love it. I just eat it. Love taking the kids out. Love hunting with my wife too. And man, November 14th is just as good as Christmas Eve in our house. Them kids are so fired up. And of course, everybody, you know, we got to hash out and lobby and argue for what spots who's going to sit in on opening morning. That conversation is still underway and highly contested. We're seeing plenty of buck activity. I mean, there's not going to be a shortage of targets. It's just a question if we can sit still and not rattle our snack wrappers and not fall asleep when the 30 pointer walks by the blind. And well, we'll see. But yeah, we've got a lot of cause for excitement. We've got some nice bucks running around. Of course, you guys have seen that 10 that I'm chasing, and he has continued to elude my grasp. It's going to tip the scales a little bit in my favor, having a rifle in my hand now, but I'm half tempted to stick with the bow just as a matter of honor. I don't know. Sure as I do that, though, what's going to happen is he's going to walk out at 8:15 and stand there broadside at about 60 yards and laugh at me. And should have brought the rifle.
Yeah, I've been dealing with that myself. My target bucks, that's where they're staying, about 60 yards. Can't do nothing about it. And the ones I did have were at 40. And every time they would stop, it was right behind something. There wasn't nothing I could do about it. But yeah, I'm anxious to get out there. Usually that night before, I can't even sleep. I just love it.
I heard Ray mention a shotgun, and I believe I saw something about a good old classic 870. And I think I heard muzzle loader. I'm assuming a 50 cal inline. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yes, sir.
That's the 870. But I'll be honest with you, the muzzle loader isn't old school. It's a newer one. It's a Traditions. But right. I don't have the old flintlocks or nothing like that, but I like that easy access to the breech, and I can load her up quick. But this little guy, I can shoot. I got her at 200 yards now, then pretty good. So I just like the old black powder. The boom and the smoke, and then bloop, and it's like sweet. Or I'm just old. I like old stuff.
Dennis, what's your tools of the trade? What's your go-to firearm?
Usually I'm hunting with Mossberg 520 gauge smooth bore. Is what I've been hunting with for the last probably decade or so. But this year a little different. Got a Savage Access bolt action 350 Legend.
I have one too.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that thing a whirl, and I'll be carrying Dad's pistol. I got a 357. Nice. And if I can get one in close enough, I'm going to take it with the pistol. That's something he never got a chance to do. He always wanted a pistol hunt, and never got around to it because of his health issues and stuff. And now he's passed on. So I inherited his gun. I figure I'd try to get one down on the ground for him.
Why they come pouring out of the soybean field, Dennis, it might be a matter of simply, protection.
Well, they can be very vicious.
How about you, Bill? Tools of the trade.
I am taking my old reliable Remington 700 30-06. My grandpa bought me that when I was 17, and I've taken plenty of deer with it. It's kind of a tradition, I've got quite an arsenal. That's my opening day gun. That's the go-to. It's reliable, it's trusty, and I've got plenty of memories with, back when I used to hunt with my grandfather with it.
That one was just given to me.
Yep.
From my grandpa. That exact same gun, Bill.
Is that the BDL?
This is with a scope?
No, the model. Is it a BDL?
It's a Model 700, Remington Model 700 30-06. What?
Yep.
Doesn't
say BDL on it.
It looks
all
like
I know is it's
nice engraving work done on the forearm.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
nice.
That's the identical one to mine, Ray.
Dude, I can't wait. That's going to be one if I don't get a deer opening day, I'm going to state land above 57 with that baby.
Then the gloves are off.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I've kind of tossed and turned a little bit. I can't even say for certain what I'm going to do. I may take to the woods opening morning of rifle with my Matthews Atlas and continue on with the archery battle. But I don't know. If my will gets weak, then I might pull out Belgian Browning lever action 308.
Ooh.
It was my father's gun before it became mine. And when I was just a little thing, I shot the first deer I ever killed with that gun. So it's like you guys have your sentimental reasons, right?
Yep.
It's no different for me. I really like it because it's short, like a 30-30.
Mm-hmm.
And you work that lever pretty quick. It makes it nice for being a quote unquote brush gun, but that 308 cartridge has got some reach out and touch you if you want to. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Oh yeah.
That's my dad's 30-30 he handed me down to me. I got all kinds of goodies.
But yeah, if I'm going to hunt tight quarters, I'll probably use that Belgian Browning 308. And if I'm going to be someplace like up in the Oak Flats where I've got some range and some visibility down off of them ridge fingers, then I might step up the game and bust out the Weatherby 300 Win Mag.
Ooh, big gun.
Yeah. I liked a long flat shooting gun like that for the right situation. You just can't beat it. And sometimes it's as General Patton said, get there first with the most. The 300's got plenty of smack when it arrives.
Yeah, I'm pretty anxious to get out there. I am. I'm pumped. If I can't get them with the 350 Legend or that 357, I hear you hit them hard enough with the F-150, they fly right over into the truck bed and you keep on going home.
You get one of those, what is it, like a zombie plow from The Walking Dead, and you just scoop those right into the back. That's about what you guys need down there in Zone 3, I think, as many deer as you got running around.
Man, it's crazy. They're all over the place on the expressway, just laying everywhere. It's sad, man, that they just basically let them rot. To be honest with you, they could be taking that meat, butchering it, and giving it either to needy families or helping feed the homeless. But they waste. They'll give you a ticket for wasting, but they waste. Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, I'm not at all a fan of leave and let lay permits. I mean, that should be reserved for only the most extreme circumstances from where I stand.
Yeah, I myself, I won't pass up a roadkill. That
thing
looks fresh. I'll right in the back of the truck. Drives the old lady nuts.
Especially once, winter comes and it's cold and there's some snow on or whatever. I ain't too proud. I'll pull over and do that.
Yep.
First couple of times my wife saw me do that when we were first married, she slinks down in the seat and she's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I'm like, "That's supper right there."
Yeah, baby, it's tenderized and everything.
Yeah, I ain't too proud to salvage what I can off of roadkill. And I think it was a couple of years ago I picked up 6 that year, 6 deer. That's a lot of bonus venison.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I got 2 road kills that both the deer were alive, and the cops had to be called, and because they wouldn't let me put them down. I was like, I'll do it right now instead of waiting on them to instead of him suffering. And these cops, man, one Romulus and one Van Buren. The first cop, he don't hunt. Took the shot. He had to put multiple shots into this deer. I'm trying to tell him, for future reference, this is where you want to shoot him. And,
real life Barney Fife.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. And then the Van Buren cop, there was one that got hit, and there was a school bus. That thing was flipping around in the road, holding up traffic. No, I'm 3 cars back, and I see what's going on. I jump out of the truck and grab that thing by the leg while I was alive and drug it across the road, get it on the side of the road. And I called the cops or whatever. And these kids were freaking out on the school bus and everything. And, I told the cops, on the phone, I said, I'll get, put it out of its misery or whatever. Oh, no, we got to come down there and blah, blah, blah. And cop gets out like he's Barney and stands right over him, pops him. And it totally misses the brain and blows out the bottom of the jaw. And he walks back into the car and starts filling out his paperwork and stuff. And the thing's still flipping around suffering. I had to tap on his window. I'm like, look, man, you're going to have to come out here and put another shot in this thing. And same thing. I had to tell him exactly you guys are cops. You should know. I mean, geez.
Hey, we had a burning question come in from a concerned viewer. It says, question, especially for this panel, 2-ply or wet wipes in the backpack? Well, Tim, I guess I will answer that with a little bit of history. So, having spent more than my share of years hunting long hours in the backcountry, nature sometimes calls when it is not convenient, as I'm sure you're aware, and all manner of unmentionables have been used to contain the sanitary needs of the moment. I think there have been socks that have been donated. I think there have been chunks of t-shirt sawed off and donated. I'm pretty certain that there's been various large leaves put to use. And you'd think you'd wise up after you went through that once or twice. No, had to learn the hard way. So eventually I broke down and I got a little quart size Ziploc baggie, and I put a whole God blessed roll of quilted northern in there, and I smashed it flat, and I put that right in the waterproof pouch in my pack. So even when I am in the roughest of conditions, I have all the comforts of home for my hiney.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not a wet wipes person. I don't like wet wipes personally. I'd like my dry toilet paper, and I like my snacks. And believe me, I go through a few backpack rules a season.
I usually grab some brownie freaking paper towel, fold it up, and stick it in my pocket. It's a quicker pooper upper.
Uh-huh.
A little rough for me.
I was out fishing one time, and that hit me real bad, and I didn't have nothing at all. And yeah, by the time I got home, I had to use my boxer, so I went home with no underwear on, smelling like fish, and my wife thought I was cheating on her.
So I will tell one hunting bathroom story, and this happened, I don't know, like 4 years ago now. So we were out hunting some private ground. It was a Mennonite family that owned a big section of ag land out there, and we had permission to go out, and they had some DMAP tags for does. I took my son out with me, and we're sitting out there, and I broke my cardinal rule. I'm not a big breakfast guy when I'm going to go and sit, especially all day. Like
Yeah.
I might have one cup of coffee and I either eat nothing or it's like a protein bar. That's it.
Yep.
If I do anything other than that, I'm going to have to find the outhouse
Yeah.
Yep.
at the most inconvenient time. So I broke my rule that morning. I'm like, it'll be fine. And then we're sitting out in the blind and it's just past prime time and I'm like, oh no, 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 no. And I'm just suppressing it. And I'm like, no way we're getting up, man. We're gonna sit. We came here to hunt. Conditions are great. You know, it had snowed the night before and the storm broke just early that morning. It's ideal. Everything's perfect. And man, my stomach just kept turning and turning and just grinding in knots. And finally I'm like, okay, this is serious. Unfortunately, it had become much more serious than being able to make it back across the field and to the truck. It was to the point of total crisis. So I unzipped the blind, get outside the blind, re-zip the blind, and I'm outside. And the pipes are wanting to evacuate, man. So I'm trying to strip 20 layers of clothing off as fast as humanly possible. And I think I got through 19 of them, but I didn't get all 20. So here I am, bare hind end in like 8-degree weather on the Mennonite farm, hoping that somebody's not, one of their wives looking out their kitchen window, seeing my bare hiney across their farm field in the morning, and ruin my hunting gear. So then I've got to figure out how I'm going to tell my son what's happened and what we now have to do. I'm like, well, there's no way to say it other than to just say it. So I unzip the tent and I says, hey, buddy, we gotta go because Dad crapped his shorts. And he looks at me and he's like, what? Your shorts cracked. I said, no, son. And of course he has to make me say it again. So he looks at me and he's trying to figure out whether he should laugh or whether he should not. And I'm like, it's okay. It's funny. And he died. So there was the walk of shame back across the fields to the truck, drive back to the house, get cleaned up. Oh yeah. So I have been in the bad situation of not having the appropriate bathroom utensils in my pack, and it will never happen to me again.
Those are code brown.
Yes, sir.
Not good.
No.
Not
That's the
good.
same thing for you guys. You guys just a little bit of coffee and eat really light before you go out and set. Is that your rule of thumb?
Waters. I like waters. Your stomach starts doing the gurgle. Half a bottle of water, you're good for a while. That or the protein bars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't eat a breakfast. No, I will do a coffee, which used to affect me, but it's not as bad anymore. So I take a coffee with me, but I really try not to eat anything. And I might put something in my pack. It might be a snack bar or something like that, or a snack stick or something unpackaged in a baggie so it's not real loud. But I usually try to wait 10, 11 o'clock because I know that's a problem.
I'm that guy too. Like, if I'm going to sit all day, I might take a couple of protein bars, and I do the same thing. I take them out of that noisy ass wrapper, and I put them in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm like reaching down in my pack, and I'm just opening that Ziploc bag like a millimeter at a time, and I'm looking around like, God, that's loud. Same thing. If I'm especially later, because we get pretty big snow up here usually by the second week of rifle, and if not, immediately after, and it gets cold. Yeah. And it's nice to have a hot cup of coffee from the Stanley thermos on days like that. You're sitting all day, just a little comfort at home, a little pick me up. But I tell you what, I go through the same gut wrenching sequence of events every time. I've got to carefully turn that lid off of the Stanley and hope that rubber gasket doesn't squeak. And I'm just nervous it's going to squeak. And then I finally get the cap off it. And I'm like, okay, I got to hurry up and pour a cup of coffee. I got to drink this because I can't have this stink. I'm like, they're going to smell my coffee. I'm going to blow my chances. Oh, I'm just paranoid about snacks and coffee. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't bring nothing extra to the woods with me. It's bad enough. We stink. I ain't trying to bring nothing else out there. But yeah, usually coffee, it doesn't take much to get me going. About a half a cup and I'm running to the crapper. So I usually get up a couple hours before I even got to be in the stand just to have my coffee, blow out a quick O-ring and start packing up. And get ready. Yeah, I can't. When I was younger, I made that mistake and brought a thermos full of coffee and like a genius, hey, we'll bring some chili in the other one. Don't eat chili and coffee for lunch. It's horrible. It's a mess, let me tell you.
So speaking of food, do you guys have anything that you traditionally cook for opening morning, opening night, whatever, any kind of particular, like you make chili or you make steaks or any kind of traditions there with deer camp food?
We used to always do steaks. We'd always have a big hearty meal, some porterhouse, baked potato, and then, a side of sodas. That was our thing for quite a few years. And now, unfortunately, our camp's kind of busted up. So Ty's coming up tomorrow, so I might just go down to the meat market and get us some steaks.
I normally like to make it like a batch of chili. I did it at deer camp a couple of years ago. It's just for me, it's a warm, comforting thing. Yeah, maybe it doesn't have the best results, but it's it's just one of those things and I always add venison in it and a mixture of other stuff. So I kind of like to do that with the temperature usually cool. It's just nice to have, I guess, and the smell and everything. So
yeah, myself, I like to smoke a lot of meat, especially like pork. I like a pork tenderloin or do some ribs at camp or I usually make a big batch of venison chili like the night before, and I usually take it up with me and feed the guys. And my breakfast after we get out of the stand, if we go for lunch or something like that, it's basically a late breakfast for us. And I gotta have my corned beef hash, man. I know it's horrible. It's horrible for your heart. It's so greasy, but that's basically my crack.
I think you had ribs at the deer camp before, I think, didn't you, Dennis?
Me?
I thought you brought some.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, we had a plethora of food.
Always do.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had necessarily anything that we would traditionally do. When I was real young and we first, I first got introduced to bow camp. When I was just a real little kid, we lived in the Lower Peninsula down in the Pinckney area. I think I might have mentioned that before, Livingston County. But since the dawn of when God created dirt, the men in my family have always headed north for usually that second, third week of bow season. And we go up there and do backcountry camp in Iron County, Crystal Falls area. And it was always tradition there that whoever drew first blood had to go into town that night and buy a bunch of pizzas for everybody. And it was this little place called Irene's just across the border in Florence, Wisconsin. And they did this ridiculous, like triple mozzarella cheese, crab and shrimp, seafood, whatever pizza. And it was brick oven.
Nice.
Man, was that ever good?
I could get down with that.
I like brick oven pizza. That's my favorite.
That was kind of a thing back in the day. That bow camp was officially convened when somebody whacked one, and we had Irene's pizzas, and that was like our big thing for the trip because we used to grind pretty hard and we'd stay out in the bush. So coming into town for anything was a real treat. But I don't know. Around here, I don't think we have necessarily an opening day or opening weekend dish that we traditionally prepare, but it's usually always something with venison. We've smoked up venison ribs. We'll do venison chili. Matter of fact, the wife said something to me about venison chili here just tonight. I do mine a little bit different though. I do actually a sweet chili. So it's got like a brown sugar and a honey in it. Got the dark red and the light red kidney beans and
Yeah.
a mixture of different stuff and the venison, the stewed tomatoes. And the weird thing about it is, and maybe you guys feel this way about your chilies or your soups, I think they're always better the next day.
Always.
I don't know what it
Always.
is, but
My
the next
Everything
day it's like,
thickens up and sets in. It's
yeah,
day 2 is always better.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
for sure.
Said it smells ain't, but
It just seems like all the seasonings and everything get in there and it thickens it up a
Yep.
little. I don't know what it is, but like goulash, anything, it's always better the next day for us.
Yep.
So how about, we use the word camp, which, it's almost kind of a Uper thing, right? We're going to the deer camp, eh? But how is Lower Michigan for quote unquote camp culture? Do any of you do that? Do you have a traditional camp and family and friends all gather at the deer camp and you stay there for the week or whatever? Do you guys do that down there?
Well, unfortunately for me, my dad, my grandpa, they're a lot older now, and they've kind of to the point where we don't do the camp. We used to go to Gaylord, Michigan, which is up north, up by Tim, but we used to go up there and camp right out there on state property and hunt all the time. We haven't done that in years, obviously, but so I don't really have a camp anymore. But opening day this weekend, thankfully, I got a good friend of mine, Chad. It's a lifelong friend, and we just kind of dedicate our couple days to just getting out. We'll eat a little, we'll go back out, whatever. I mean, I don't do a camp anymore. Our deer camps with MR are the most I have. Unfortunately, I missed this year's, but we're trying to make that back into a thing. But I don't really have a deer camp anymore. I mean, I don't have all my family, either they don't hunt or they're too old in that. So I'm kind of the only one doing it. So for me, I just try to carry on the tradition and the chili home and out in the woods killing deer. That's it.
How about you, Bill?
So, actually, my dad's got some property on the west side of Saginaw County. Lots of state land. We no longer do a camp, but every year it's always awesome to see all these guys migrate up the, end of October, early November. I mean, pop-ups. There's guys staying in tents, fifth wheels. Every pull-off is just slammed. And you'd go driving by about 8, 9 o'clock. It's kind of the up north thing. You got the campfires going. Everybody's sitting around and, then there's guys popping campfire to campfire, just driving camp to camp, meeting people. It's definitely, Saginaw County's not necessarily north, but it definitely has the deer camp culture there. And that's something that I grew up around. And it's good to see every year. And I feel like numbers every year are fairly consistent. Whether the older guys are stopping, there's new guys taking their place. All the pull-offs are always packed, and there's campfires going everywhere. So
that's awesome. Dennis, what about you, buddy?
Well, pretty much all the people I hunted with are dead and gone. But I do go to a camp. It's up in Rose City. It's called Buck Iggy's Deer Camp. My buddy Don O'Neill, he lives up there. He lives at camp all year. He's retired. He's an older gentleman. And he's still got a few hunts left in him, but he's winding down with that. So, yeah, I try to get up there once a year, usually the gun season, and go spend a week with him and go shoot the breeze and go spend that time out there while I got him,
Heck yeah.
But yeah, I would love to be doing a camp on a regular basis though. But yeah, I just don't have nobody to do it with. I got a bunch of talkers, but no walkers.
There's plenty of that to go around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was saying I grew up as a kid coming up, to the UP doing backcountry camp, and that made a huge impression on me as a kid. For years, my dad, my uncles, and family friends would come home, and it's this big procession of trucks and Jeeps and all this stuff pulling into the driveway, pulling up on the curb in front of the house, and the bucks are all over the tops of the cars and whatever else. And man, I was out that door so fast the second that procession of trucks pulled up and the men got home from up north. I didn't care if I was in my underwear, didn't have socks in my feet. My mom would be yelling at me, Jordan, get back in the house. No way, man. The guys are home from camp. I want to see. I want to hear. Tell me all about it. Tell me everything. Tell me the stories, And the legend and lore of the UP wilderness loomed large from the time I was just a little boy. And I would just sit there around the living room and listen to the guys talk and recount things that had happened or experiences they had. And I was just in awe of that. And when it was finally, a point in time where I was of age to go, the talk was nothing compared to the reality. Wow. The first time we pulled off on some godforsaken forest highway and everybody's getting out, and back in the day you had to get out and lock in your hubs. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, oh yeah, we're going 4-wheel drive because we ain't going to be able to go too far, and then we're going to have to leave the trucks. And I'm like, leave the trucks? I'm like, oh yeah. There you go, Ray. Exactly. And back then we had the Honda Big Reds, the 3-wheelers everybody kills themselves on. So we had a fleet of those things, man, and we'd go only so far with the trucks, and it was a battle. And then everybody'd unload the ATVs and the bags and the tree stands and the gear, and it was ratchet straps flying everywhere and flashlights and cussing and stubbing your shins on trailer hitches. And it was absolute madness in the black and night. It was quite a substantial drive for us to get up there from lower Michigan. And so then we'd ride the ATVs back into the bush, and we had a couple of predetermined spots that they'd used for many, many years. And we'd be out there with the old Coleman lanterns and hang them up off of trees. You remember the old screw in, like the tree steps?
Oh, yeah.
We had those up around the camp, and he'd hang the lanterns off of them suckers and get everything all set up. And man, it'd be 3:00 in the morning before we get everything all situated. And of course, we were up for 5:00 the next morning to go and hunt. Everybody had a nap, but nobody cared. Everybody was so energized. It was like it didn't even matter, But the UP wilderness was something else. And I was so fortunate as a young man to grow up with the group of men that I did in camp that mentored me and taught me and corrected me. Definitely had a heavy hand in shaping me into the adult that I became and igniting the passion for hunting in the outdoors that's burned with me all my life. And, you don't have to have a camp atmosphere to get those things, but I think that there is something special when you get a group of like-minded individuals together, be it family or friends or whatever it is, and you share your passion for the outdoors and the camaraderie of camp, and you get back at night and you share a meal, you break bread together, and you recount the stories of the day. There's something almost spiritual about that. There's something wholesome and good that comes from that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yep.
But yeah, backcountry camp was a thing for many, many, many years. Dennis, I'm like you. Most of my hunting party is now passed on, unfortunately. And my dad is up in age to the point where he just can't hunt anymore. And for a number of years, I was a solo act. And my wife worried about me quite a bit at times early on in our marriage because I'd disappear into the wilderness, and it's 2 hours after dark and she's pacing the kitchen, and I'm like, oh honey, I'm fine. It takes a while to get out, but I'm sure similar to you guys, I've got my own ethos and my own code about things that are acceptable behavior and not for people who hunt with me. And it can be hard sometimes to find people of like mind and similar value systems. And it can also be hard to find people that just love to get out there and get after it, weather be darned. There's a
Right.
lot of fair weather hunters out there. But we've never had a traditional, like a log cabin camp or whatever on 100 acres or anything like that. I've been a public land hunter nearly all my life. I've had a few situations where I have leased some ground up here for very short durations, but all the deer I was killing were on ground I wasn't leasing, so I kind of stopped doing that.
Right.
But yeah, there's such a strong camp culture here in the UP. There are a lot of the traditional log cabins, old school, hand hewn, tucked up in the bush somewhere, that are passed down from father to son, and it is such a special thing for UP families. And that tradition, has kind of faded off, unfortunately, over the years. And I hope it never truly fades away, because I don't think the UP would be quite the same without that camp culture. I've been privileged to be invited to a few camps over the years, and sit around and play cards and enjoy the wood stove and have a couple of beers with the fellas, and there's just something special about that atmosphere. You just can't describe it. And whether you're sitting around, by headlamp light, eating spam out of a tin in a 3-season tent, been there too, or whether you're sitting in a log cabin and there's a pot of chili on the stove, there's just something special about that deer camp camaraderie. And this time of year is just something that we look forward to, and I'm sure so many hundreds of thousands of Michigan hunters do all year long. I say all the time, I wait 9 months for 3.
Yep.
I gut it out the rest of the year. October, November, and December, I am in my glory.
Yep.
And there's just something good that comes from plugging your soul back into the source in the outdoors.
It's the only time I feel normal. To be honest with you, the rest of the 9 months, I'm ripping my hair out.
And I'm out there with the rest of the animals. I blend right in.
Yeah.
I feel that. So the last thing I thought we would do tonight to kind of wrap this all back around is share a favorite hunting story. I don't care if it's bow or rifle or muzzleloader. It happened to you. It happened to a friend. It happened to a family member. But I thought we'd just we'd tell a tale around the campfire before we sign off tonight. And Bill, why don't you open us up, brother?
Well, overall, I've got a lot of really good stories, but my number one story is my first deer with my grandpa. And that was, it was Thanksgiving, but I was 12 years old. That year I got my first 243 for a early Christmas present, And man, I remember everything. I remember sighting it in at the house, and we went up to our cabin, which was at that time up in Sheboygan. Me, Grandma, and Grandpa, and like kind of like what you were saying with the deer camp, same kind of thing. So I always wanted to go up there and be with the guys. So Grandpa took me up there for Thanksgiving, me, him, and Grandma, and we seen a couple of does. It was nice snowy. There was probably a foot of snow back when we used to get snow for Thanksgiving.
Before global warming.
Yeah. So I remember it. We were watching a couple of does and we were waiting for a buck, and the spike came out with, I don't know, 7.5 inch spikes, And I remember watching them with the binoculars, getting excited, and Grandpa yelling at me, telling me, "Hey, you gotta be quiet." I'll never understand how I got that deer. I knocked over the box of shells. The deer looked around, didn't spook. Grandpa got yelled at. Knocked the binoculars off the shelf. Knocked the coffee off the shelf. And the whole time, I've got Grandpa looking at me like, "Come on, man." Somehow that deer made his way, 40 yards from the blind, but it was on the right side. I was on the left, Grandpa was on the right. and I was a little smaller then, so I remember I crawled over and I sat up on his knee so I could get up to the window. My single shot 243 popped it. I remember I looked at him, we hugged, and that was I mean, to this day that is my absolute number one hunt. I've got a European mount of it on my wall. I'll always have it. I still have my 243, but every deer I've ever got, every hunt I've ever had, that's number one. Absolute number one.
That's awesome, Bill. Dennis, how about you, buddy?
There's a bunch. There's a bunch. Yeah, probably one of my best memories. This was probably 15 years or so ago. Maybe say 15 to 20. My grandmother had a little bit of property on the opposite side of Metro Airport from where I'm at now, and we had permission to hunt that, plus the neighbor's lot and the neighbor next door to them. And trying to help my buddy out get a deer or whatever, and I put him in a stand. We were hunting I guess it comes down into a pinch, but the way it was set up, it's like a triangle. I'm over here, he's over there, and to be honest with you, it's kind of tight quarters. There's a thicket between me and him, and at the top of the pyramid, or I should say the triangle, there's a run that splits. One goes on the one side of the thicket, one goes on the other. Well, we weren't very far apart. We could actually see each other in the stand, and my buddy was up in the stand or whatever. I'm on the other side of the thicket, and he was telling me about it. He had a doe come around, and it was coming right at him. He had a single shot. I think it was a 12 or 20 gauge, and he ain't got a lot of deer in his lifetime, but when he sees them, he just falls apart. And he had the thing at 20 yards and whiffed, and the thing went running back the way it came, and then come around to my side. And I texted him, I said, "Did you get him?" He goes, "No." And I was like, "Okay." And the thing started coming my way, and I seen him. He's coming right down that run, and boom! I hit that sucker so hard that when it came out, it splattered all over the tree behind him. And the thing ran about 80 yards and fell over. And I got a text immediately from my buddy. He goes, "Did you get him?" I said, "Yep." And he called me well, we won't say that. But yeah, it was a good time. I'll never forget that. There's been a couple times I hunted with that guy, and we always had a good time. I'd like to get him back out again, but he had a stroke a couple of years ago, and he's having a hard time being mobile with his left side. But I'm gonna get him out there. I just got to figure out how to do it. I need to get a quad or borrow one. I definitely want to get the man out there. He's got a huge passion for it, and I know it's eating him up to have to sit on the sidelines. But
well, good on you, Dennis. I hope you can get him out there. Thanks for that story. That was a good one. That was funny.
Yeah, you should have heard what he called me.
I can imagine. Ray, what do you got for us, buddy?
Well, a lot of stories, but I will go with probably my first deer I ever killed. I was 15 years old, and back when my dad was the deer slayer, we had a certain section of property, some private land back in the day when we used to work with these farmers. We went back to a blind that the farmer had set up, and it was on the edge of a really probably about a 30-acre CRP field, and then about an 80-acre woodlot, and to our south was the farmer's huge alfalfa field, and it was about a quarter mile off the road. So we got in the blind, and we start seeing deer, and I'm wanting to just, I'm antsy, and I'm wanting to just shoot. Let me just, come on, Dad. And he's like, no, son, wait. There'll be a buck that comes through. We've seen a couple doe. And then they kind of walk off, and I'm over here going, we ain't gonna get nothing, and I'm getting all ticked off. My dad's like, hang in there, son, hang in there. It'll be all right. And we, out of nowhere, we see out in that CRP field coming right dead to us on the edge of the woods was an absolute, I call them tanks. It was a monster buck, but he was coming straight forward to us. And my dad let me use his shotgun. It was an 870 Remington. Mind you, a little bit more to the story, it was meant for his eye relief. So I've got this. I'm sitting there going, "Come on, Dad, let me shoot this thing. Let me shoot this thing." He's going, "No, son, he's coming. The deer turns and goes in the woods. We never see him again. Then I'm almost crying, and I'm like, this is terrible." So this is a little bit more time goes on. A doe comes out of the woods where that big buck went in, but where's the big buck? Now, that little doe comes across that CRP, and then I had that scope right on that doe. My dad goes, don't. And there was another deer coming, and it was a buck, but it wasn't that buck, but it was this buck. And I followed that thing. It was about 60-yard shot. Boom! And right in my eye. Bam! And I had a black eye. I couldn't see anything, and it didn't cut me, luckily. And my dad the deer runs back in the woods where we watched the other big buck go. And my dad, he goes, "Man, I think you got him. And I'm like, and I'm over here, "Oh man, he's like, "You'll be all right, just got a black eye." I'm like, "Well, looks like I got in a fight." But we let everything calm down. And we got down, we walked along that CRP field, we get in the woods, and I'm kind of off to his left a little bit. And I'm looking, I don't know what I'm doing. My dad goes, he's right here. And it was just a jubilation. I was just like, oh my gosh, I got my first deer ever. And it was a little 5-point. So I went through everything, had to go to school the next day and go, what happened to you? I said, scope. So it was a moment. I got a picture of me still. So I tried to find it here, but it's gone. But that big old black eye, I was like, it was worth it. It was awesome. So that kind of got me hooked forever.
To see the other guy.
Yeah, right. He's hanging.
That's a great story, Ray. That's cool. You still have the antlers too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I vacillated back and forth which story I'm going to tell. I mean, we could probably kill a few beverages and half of the night trading stories, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but in the name of brevity. So I'll share one in which I did not take a deer, but learned a valuable lesson. So I was 17 years old at the time, and my dad and I had decided to break away from the traditional grounds and do a backcountry camp out in a place called Republic, which is still up here in the UP, and pretty remote and desolate. It was definitely some big wilderness, and we got on some excellent deer sign out there. This was probably the end of October when we were scouting it really for rifle. And there were a couple just monster rubs out there. Now, I had never at that point seen rubs that big. You got a tree that's 5 inches around and it's just tore to pieces. I'm thinking moose. And my dad's like, no, look in the mud. And I look down and they're deer tracks. And I'm like, oh. So we were excited. And back then we didn't have trail cameras or nothing like that. I think we had trail timers, they call them, if you remember those. The fishing line across the deer trail, and you're like, something was here at 9:05. You just walk by your buddy's stand every day and kick the trail timer just to keep him excited. So anyway, we're going into rifle season, and man, winter came fast and with a vengeance that year. And we were camped back there in a little 1972 Apache, the old green, OD green canvas side. And but we were smart rednecks because we had sheets of 2-inch styro board that we insulated the inside of that thing with. We'd slide them up under the locking bars and whatnot. And we'd, back then they had the, like the dual burner, tank top heaters. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
That all night long. Yeah. We had one of those. We stayed warm in there, but man, it was brutal. And it dumped like 17 inches of snow the night before rifle season. I think we got another 8 inches over the next day.
Yeah.
And the wind just howled. We weren't seeing anything. And I had my big boy britches on, being 17 years old. I was a mighty white hunter and going to prove my manhood. So I'm up there in the tree stand and I am just getting the crap kicked out of me by this weather. I am literally just limping back to camp every night like a sad puppy, and then managing to pull my crap together enough to put on a good front for the old man. And that was about it. I was taking a beating. And we went that first week, and I saw 2 deer at a distance, and that was it. And my old man was pretty much in the same boat, and the snow is just dumping, continuing to dump. And the wind is not laying down. I think we had one afternoon where it slowed down to like 12 or 13 mile an hour winds, which was like, oh, this is great. Just terrible, god awful conditions. I finally told my old man, I'm like, I don't know what happened to that deer, but I think it either, got shot by somebody else or run over by a semi. I don't know what, but that deer ain't
It's
here.
gone.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, because we were there for the whole 2 weeks. And so I don't even think I'm going to go out in the morning. Like, I kind of had enough. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep in tomorrow. Ain't going to miss anything. And the old man kind of coaxed me a little bit. He's like, Jordan, he said, sometimes, he said, it's the day you don't go. I'm like, yeah. Don't give me that. I've been putting in my time. Dad. Don't give me that, Yeah, okay. You're your old man. You're going to make your decisions. Like, okay. So in the morning, I hear him getting around. He just reaches over, smacks my foot. He says, well, you going, boy? I don't know. So what's it like out there? And I can hear the canvas just flapping in the wind. He's like, it's snowing sideways. I'm like, no. Nope. It's like, you have fun. I'm going to stay here. It's like, all right, shoot yourself. And out he goes into the morning black. And a while later, I awaken from my comfortable slumber to, Jordan, get out here. What? Now I'm thinking something's wrong, so I unzip the tent and the wind is still howling. I get a face full of snow, and here's the old man with this absolute behemoth 10-point buck laying in his This thing was a freaking cow with deer antlers on. It was one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen. And he's just smiling at me. And I'm like, no. And of course, I hug him, and the celebration's on and everything. But, oh, man, did he stick that in my ribs so bad? Cool. Didn't want to go out. The big, strong man's not going to go hunt the tree stand. Oh, he was just giving it to me. And the thing that made it worse is that the direction the deer came from, it crossed my stand before it got to my dad, and he shot it. So had I been out of the rack that morning and in my stand like I should have been, I would have shot the biggest deer ever. But nope. So I learned a valuable lesson as a young man, that it doesn't matter what the conditions are. As my father imparted to me, you can't kill them from the couch. So when I struggle and when my morale is low and when the weather is beating my ass a little bit, I always remember that day and I get a few more miles out of my tank of gas.
Yeah.
Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight and sharing a little campfire chat with us. And before we get out of here, I would just like to impart a couple things to everybody that's watching or listening or will watch or listen in the next couple of days. We've got a couple of responsibilities here as hunters going into firearm season. Number one, safety. We all have people that love us, whether it's children, whether it's a wife, whether it's friends, whatever it is. We have people that want us to come home. Please wear your safety harness. If you're going up in a tree, please be sure of your target, what's beyond, take all the necessary precautions. We want everybody to have a safe and successful hunting season. Number two, it is our duty as hunters to make clean, ethical kills. Please take the time to get your rifle, your muzzleloader, your shotgun, whatever you're going to use, whatever your tool is, get it out, go to the range, and check it. Make sure you're on target. There's a lot of guys that it's fine. I checked it last year. Well, things happen, and I was that guy one year, and I never did it again. Don't be that guy. Please just take the extra time, go to the range, and make sure that you're grouping right. Everything is in working order. Firearms are clean, ready to go. And the last thing that anybody wants to is to have the big one get away because you weren't prepared. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Be safe, be successful, make memories to last a lifetime. I wish everybody the best of luck November 15th. Bring home the big one.
See y'all.
Perfect.